Today's topic is based on a question I received from one of my podcast listeners, and we will call her COVID Kate. She started running in the spring of 2020, as a lot of people did, and then after about 6 months, she stopped. Now, in the middle of 2022, she wants to get started again. I'll share with you my answer to her and also giving you some tips if you haven't had that long of a break. So stay tuned. Hey there, Wrinkled Runner here. I'm going to start by saying the answer to this question is based on the fact that Kate is not injured, nor did she stop running because of injury. If you have had to take a break because of an injury, whether running or not, or some other medical issue, you're going to need to discuss with your doctor or your PT if you're clear to run again. It's always a good idea to make sure your doctor knows when you start something new, especially when it comes to exercise. It should come as no surprise that I told Kate she was going to have to start back slowly. In fact, in her case, I advised her to begin her Start to Run program from scratch. Any time off over 3 or 4 months is really long enough that you should consider yourself back to the drawing board. Now, for someone who is an elite runner that trains with world-class coaches, that will not be the case. But for a typical you and me type runner, we need to acknowledge that we are losing a ton of running fitness in that time and are opening ourselves up to major injuries if we try and start back to where we were. Kate needs to make sure she is able to walk for 30 to 60 minutes before starting the Start to Run program that I recommend, which I will link to below if you're just starting to run. Once starting back, Kate and anyone else that is beginning again should mindfully track their bodies. A little niggle here or there, or pain or discomfort, that could signal an injury. Are you out of breath easily, or are you finding you need a nap after a run? All those things are signs that you're doing too much too soon and you need to back off even more. Now, in Kate's circumstance, since the amount of time she was away from running was very significant, it was an easy call to have her start over again. But what if you took off far less time, say a month? Whatever time you take off, you should be starting back slowly. Unless it was like a week, you won't be jumping right back in where you left off, at least not if you're my client. But more mileage and pace need to be added gradually. No matter what your physical shape is, you will have lost some running fitness. Now, if you've been running a long time, you will regain it again at a lot faster rate than someone who hasn't been running for years and years though. For those of you who know what VO2 max is and track that, don't be surprised at a lower number. You will gain it back as you get back into running more, but you're not going to have held on to whatever that number was. And frankly, it can be kind of arbitrary if we're just using a watch to figure that out. Don't be tempted to compare yourself to where you were. That's only going to lead to another break if you get in your head and do the thing we all do, where if something doesn't go perfectly, that fits in the daydream that we have for ourselves, we're going to get down on ourselves and quit. You can get back to your running fitness. It just takes time. When I talk about running fitness, what I'm talking about are things like how strong the muscles you use for your running are, how strong your bones are and the load that you're putting them on, how your lungs and heart rate are responding to the run, and all those other kinds of things that go along with that. Stress fractures can occur very easily in someone who jumps right back into where they were before the break. And that will take you out for at least a few months, if not more, and you're going to have the added fun of dealing with coming back from an injury. There are different quote-unquote formulas for how to figure out what training you should be returning to, and I've seen some mathematical gymnastics in telling a runner how to figure out their return to run mileage, but Runner's World has listed some simple rules. I'll link you in the description to this article, but Runner's World does have a paywall for some of their content. And since I'm a subscriber, I don't know what those of you who are not can see or not see when I link you to that. So just listen to what I'm saying if you can't actually see it, because that's what I got from this article. So if you took 7 to 10 days off, Figure out what 70% of your mileage is and start there. 11 days to 1 month, you're going to come back at 60%. 1 to 3 months, 50%. And like I said before, if it's been less than a week, you're good to get back to whatever training you were doing unless it was an injury. And if it's been more than 3 months, return to a start to run program or base level. When you do come back, run easy until you've built that base back up. What I planned for a client who took a month off was start him back up at 60% of his weekly mileage with all easy runs and his long run as a run walk. And when he did that for about 2 weeks, I gave him 70% of his mileage back with his long run as half straight run and then half run, half walk. And then 2 weeks after that, he was back at full mileage. I then had him run 3 miles with an effort-based mile 2. So what he was considering an effort 3 or 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. That gave me what I call a happy mile and a happy place for him to start adding speed work and adjust his paces faster accordingly. If you don't have a coach to guide you, don't add mileage until your runs are feeling easy. Use the 10% rule, adding no more than 10% more mileage over a week until you are back to your base. I'll link you to a good article that explains how to plan that 10% buildup. Also, as you are adding back mileage, don't add faster paces. Add one variable at a time. Get back to your previous mileage and then start adding in some speed work. Basically, what I'm saying is coming back to running after a break is a whole lot of common sense and taking it easy so you don't get injured. In Kate's case, coming back means starting over, but isn't it nice to know we can always start over? Next week, I'll be showing you a newer feature in the Garmin watch that suggests a run for the day. If you aren't following a plan and want a recommendation for what to do, tune in next Wednesday. In addition to my YouTube channel, I also have a blog and podcast, and season 4 of the podcast is underway. I'll link up to those below. There's also a link for my once-a-month newsletter, so you can be up to date with all things from me, the Wrinkled Runner. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the run.